What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Happy New Year. There is a lot to talk about. So I want to make sure right out of the gate, if you're brand new and you're finding this video, make sure you subscribe because there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up. With that, let's just go ahead and jump into this. Okay, so one of the biggest things that's been on everybody's mind for the last few months is the rising cost of fertilizer and chemical. And today we're going to go through a couple of the reasons why this is happening, where it's headed, and maybe what everybody can expect for the year, because honestly, there is a lot of different things affecting these prices that you're starting to see. Now, if you've been living under a rock, maybe you don't know that this is going on, but we have seen fertilizer increases on different inputs range from double in price to triple in price. Some of those have even gone 5 and 10 times as much. So we're going to highlight a couple of those things, what's been moving, why it's been moving, and that way you kind of have an idea of what's going on. Now, I did a presentation at the Real Green Conference, WorkWave Conference, that was about a week ago, and went through a lot of this information. So I'm going to be sharing just some of the slides from that as well, and what's sort of contributing to this overall increase in fertilizer prices. So if we kind of dig into the whole thing, one of the biggest things that everybody always looks at is how much is energy affecting the price of fertilizer? Well, right now, it's not. It's not really affecting it as much as you would expect when we see price increases this high. The energy cost in the United States for natural gas right now is actually down, and it's down because up until very, very recently, we've had a pretty mild winter, and so the usage was down. Therefore, the price per therm was down, and therefore production costs for nitrogen and for phosphorus products could or should be directly impacted by that. So within the last week or so, there's been sort of a leveling out, maybe a $10 or $12 a ton range difference, but it's not really enough to make a major input. So the other things that are tied to that right now are the cost of transport, because obviously we had a lot of issues with transport and fulfillment in 2021 and going back into 2020. And then just, the basic stuff that we're dealing with right now, which is one would obviously be still dealing with pandemic-related slowdowns, as well as just overall inflation. So let's kind of take a look at some of these numbers real quick. Okay, so first off, this is not the most expensive that fertilizer's been, and actually not by a long shot. Now, does it have a chance to get there? Yeah, maybe it could. Really kind of hard to tell right now, so I don't really want to, look into the crystal ball about that, but it's high. So back in 07, 08, 09, we saw prices that were considerably higher than this, and adjusted for inflation, they'd even be more like 50% higher than this. But to give you an idea of where nitrogen's winding up right now, for per pound of N, and what's available like out in the wholesale market, what's being contracted right now, urea is almost $1 a pound. You've got ammonium sulfate running at right around $1.12 a pound. You've got UAN running somewhere around $1.08 a pound. So everything is high. It's very high. Now, if we compared that to a year ago, everything was kind of trending more like 40 cents, somewhere in that range, not $1 and $1 plus. So this is a major move. And that's kind of a similar thing for phosphorus. Phosphorus is kind of running into that same thing where it's like 2 to 2.5 times the rate it was early last spring. So if it isn't because of energy and production, then it's got to be from something else. Well, obviously inflation is playing a big role in all of this. The cost of employment, the cost of, every other input has gone up. So we're seeing an increase on that. But that still shouldn't account for 100% or 200% increase in prices. Here's where we're starting to get into more the big issue. Globally, China has been out of the production game for a while. Now, the U.S. doesn't really rely a significant amount on China's supply of nitrogen and phosphorus, but they make up for about 30% of the world's supply. If that's the case, everybody who's short is going to be looking elsewhere. That's driving up prices right now. And obviously, agriculture is going to be the one that gets the first pick for the main macronutrients, and then the rest of us that are in the grass industry, we're just going to kind of get the leftover, the allocated pieces, and obviously at a much higher cost. So we're seeing that right now. Now, as far as, I'm not even going to call this a glimmer of hope, but what's right now projected as far as China is concerned, their entry back into the fertilizer market isn't supposed to hit until June and maybe even July of this year. So we're still 6 months, maybe even 7 months out before we're going to see an impact on prices from their production. But their production is going to fall behind. So it's kind of looking like not until like Q3 until maybe we start to see kind of an easing, and it might even be Q4. So really hard to tell, but that's something that is going to have to come back into the marketplace strong in order to have a major impact on fertilizer. So what about trucking? Now, trucking has been kind of up and down, and it rose to all-time highs coming into the fall, and then it kind of petered out, and there were lanes that were crazy expensive that started to get 30 and 40% reductions because loads started to need to be moved. And right now, it's in a little bit of a level space. Obviously, we're going to have to see that as far as the cost of drivers go, if that's going to continue to rise, which it will. Fuel, again, kind of in a little bit of a balance point right now. Likely, according to projections, it's going to rise by another 10 or 15%. But it's less tied to the fuel and that cost per mile than it is by the hands that are touching it, the times it has to move from one place to another, all of that kind of stuff. So trucking is playing a role. It played more of a role in the fall and driving up the fall prices. As far as spring, I don't think it's going to be quite as bad, but that's just something to pay attention to. The other thing that we've kind of come to deal with is the total usage of FERT around the world. Between 2020 and 21, we saw about a 4.1% increase in total fertilizer use around the world. That was pretty significant. The big thing this year is there's not really a projected huge growth in the marketplace. Really right about 1% is sort of the projected growth, which is right around 1.5 million metric tons of FERT that is still going to have to come into the marketplace in order to make up for that 1% growth. So it is pretty significant. Now, the couple of things that kind of, you look at for the US is what's going to affect the prices kind of going forward. And right now, as far as the corn producers, they're so far, and then this can change because it is still January. The plan right now is about 1.3 million less acres of corn, more beans this year. And if that's the case, that's going to actually impact nitrogen positively so that we can maybe see some reduction because not quite as being used, as much as being used for ag. So here's the other one. One of the biggest things that's happened in 2020 and 2021 is the corporate profits on the fertilizer standpoint for production have gone through the roof, like incredible. Everybody's been having record year after record year, record quarter, record quarter, record quarter. So some of this isn't the, the shortages or the pinches in it's not that. Some of it isn't that. Some of it's just people are excited to be making money and they're charging a lot for it. So that is going on, and I think that everybody needs to be aware of that if you start doing a little looking around to some of these larger fertilizer suppliers, you'll see how well they've done and how investing in them as a stockholder probably hasn't been a bad return for the last 2 years. So what does it look like? Murky at best is the best way I can put this. Fertilizer prices may stabilize. Commodities like phosphorus and nitrogen will fluctuate, and they will continue to fluctuate. My biggest concern now is how many of these producers and providers are very happy with where the rates are, and even if there is a reduction in overall commodity price, are we going to see fertilizer just stay higher as in like higher retail prices, higher cost of input? There is going to absolutely be some of that. We are dealing with inflation, but again, not 2 and 3 times. They're saying 7%, maybe it's 10%. So, money isn't quite worth what it was a year ago, but that doesn't make up this big difference. So I think right now, for those of you who've been part of my program and doing what I do, we run low NPK inputs anyway, and just kind of base it on the overall look and health of the turf on when we need to give a little bit more. So, I think that there's a lot of people out there that are going to be just fine, especially business owners out there who've kind of been, running the program. You're not going to be as impacted as you could be compared to some of these, other people who are heavily reliant on NPK. And again, K definitely has gone up. So all of it has risen. And I think this year it's just going to be good to take a measured approach. That's really the best thing I can say. It's just a measured approach to your fertility, unless you don't, have a problem paying crazy high amounts for bags of fertilizer or whatever it is that you're getting. I think that it's a year to just sort of maybe take a step back, look on where you can conserve, how you can maybe extend feedings, how you can maybe add a little bit of something else in that's going to reduce the need of total N and P, because this is a year you'll save money if you take a little bit more of a conservative approach. So that's what's happening in the market right now. It's high, hang in there. We'll see where it goes. If I'm starting to see trends, I will definitely let everybody know out there. In the meantime, get ready. Spring is coming. Set your budgets. If you see some value on fertilizer out there that seems cheap, you might as well go and grab it up. I'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.